So, in this episode, we're going to break down Amazon AWS-EAST-1 and the crumbling infrastructure of the web, what the outage reveals about the internet and the current state of things. And we're going to talk about the money circulation between the select few companies that decided that AI is the future. Yay! This is so ridiculous. Okay, so we have a number of things that we're going to cover out. Now we're going to cover some finance in this episode as well. Not that I'm financially inclined, because I don't not that it's not my cup of tea, if I may use that expression. So let's start with AWS. Okay, is somewhere in Northern Virginia. It's one of the major hubs, and at this point, it seems that it's pretty much that hub that everyone plugs in their cable to have internet on. It's not that. It's basically a funny representation, or not so funny representation, of what exactly is happening. And the reason why I say that is because the hours, or actually it seems more than a few hours, I to be honest, but they say it was hours long. It actually felt like close to 10 to 12 hours, and after something that takes 12 to 10 hours to put back together, you should start to wonder what the hell is going on. But it took a lot of things out. They say it was a DynamoDB, which is a database system that they say is basically part of their automated DNS name system. DNS is that thing that even in IT, only a few know exactly what it does and how it works and what those records mean. It's pretty easy to screw up, and it's very simple to put together. So it has a nice balance to put the blame on. It's actually pretty clever. And so, damn, things are not working. Take the DNS out. Let's figure that crap out. We'll say there was DNS went haywire. We're speculating, but for something with the age of with AWS, to say that it was just the DNS service that went down and took everything with it, it seems too damn ridiculous, to be fair. I don't buy this. And it says that it basically went into a situation where it required manual operation intervention to correct. And by the time we're currently running into a mode where I would say that this is not something that they're expecting. And so not only they had to understand what was going on, but they also had to find someone with enough brain cells to actually do that intervention manually. And I'm going to go on a limb and say that that's not something that they have a lot these days. So what it took down: Signal, Snapchat, Roblox, and a few other not so named signals. Let's say the world was a bit safer for a short while, because Roblox was not up. And if you don't know what I mean with that, just Google it, because that thing is evil. All kinds of 7 layers of hell kind of evil. And the reports of problems all across the board was pretty impressive, which means the internet's no longer distributed. But more about that later. And something that I want to isolate from this entire clip here, and actually the reason why I opened this is imagine yourself buying something, and that something is described as a smart bed. Okay, now being smart means it probably is plugged into some kind of app that you need to that you can control a few things, and apparently can adjust the temperature and a few other things, right? Now, one would assume that you're sitting on top of it, you have the phone next to you, so Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, no. In order to connect those, to do that, those things, to interact with the smart features, you're talking with the company systems. Yes, it goes through the internet and back to talk with your mattress. Huh? Talking about smart, that is out of this world. I know the engineer that designed this feature was, woo, that is AI level intelligence. That's for sure. No less than that. So after this whole shenanigans went off, and with the clients actually realizing that, wait a minute, why is my mattress being controlled over the internet when I'm sitting on top of it with my phone on it? Like, now you can do it over Bluetooth just in the event of another outage. It's still not the main route, but now you can do it over Bluetooth in case the internet's down. Huh? How about that? Now, you would legitimately ask yourself, what's going on? And I'll tell you. I'm not a client, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. Cash. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about someone profiting from someone sleeping on top of a product. So you sell the thing that they sleep on top of, and you want to profit from their sleep, the thing that they do on top of it every day, or one of the things they may do on top of it every day. Yeah. Let that sink in. So AWS is about 30% of the infrastructure market, and apparently is the hub. Okay, it's the hub. And it's one of the tech giants, and I think is a very, very good eye opener. Why is this a very an eye opener? Well, if something as simple as DNS can cripple a significant chunk of the infrastructure on the internet and render everyone, make everyone go into a crazy state where resilience, backups, what is that? Alternative routes? What exactly is that? So all the cornerstones of the internet's good practices of setting up an infrastructure no longer exist. That's what it means. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about it. We have services that make bold claims about their capabilities. Everyone puts all the chips on it, and you're putting all of your eggs in a single basket. And that's not a good thing. That is a horrible thing. That's actually one of the don't do's in any book about internet infrastructure. Any bad book about infrastructure will tell you that. So we have step one on that. And then this is not bad enough, because in the same companies, pretty much in the same companies here, actually, this is a single one, but the companies that have these cloud services that are so badly put together that they crash and burn from time to time, because we also had Azure getting hacked multiple times, getting their services down and whatnot. We have the AI bubble. So we don't just have the myth of the cloud being distributed. We now have also the AI bubble. Let me pull up here an article before I do this transition here. I'm actually going to put another image as well, because we are actually reaching a point where things are becoming dangerously ridiculous, to be fair. at the heart of this, at the heart of the problem here, in both cases, we're talking about cash. We're talking about stocks. And when something that creates or sell, it's having its sell point as being, we're too big to fail. So you can't put all your eggs in this infrastructure because you never seen Amazon go down, right? That's their sales pitch, right? They can handle anything. And the same could be said about Google or Azure, right? Although Azure is on Microsoft, and everyone knows that Microsoft, they don't have a good track record. But now we're talking about AI. And AI is meant to be the next best thing. Now, I'm hiding that picture over there just for a little longer. And there's a strategic partnership going on to deploy at least 10 gigawatt AI data centers. Now, we're fighting for there are places in the world where there's still no electricity. We had a problem just a few months ago. Between Portugal, Spain, and for a few hours south of France, and from what I heard, a few places in Italy as well, with a power outage that took pretty much everything down for an entire day. In Barcelona, cell towers were only fully operating on the next day by midday. Okay. So it was a full-blown 24-hour without cell service, or the crappy cell service. That was basically good for nothing. And we're talking about spending $100 billion in a 10 gigawatt data center infrastructure. Why? Well, because the new version doesn't do anything. Microsoft usually changes the look and feel of Windows just to elude you, to lure you into forgetting the fact that is too bad to be used. And for a short while, it will do just that. In case of AI, you don't have that because everything's an API. So you're left with IRC 2.0, where instead of talking with someone, you're talking with bot. Basically, it's the bot 2.0. And the new version is only updated with the updated stuff on the internet. It doesn't deliver more promises than that. And we've seen proof of that time and time again. So how are they able to distract everyone else and still have what they seem to be claiming an idea of a business? Well, they throw cash around. Okay. So up until very recently, we had OpenAI and NVIDIA throwing money back at each other because they need graphic cards and OpenAI needs to train their models. And so this every time they put money onto NVIDIA, stocks skyrocket and everyone makes a lot of cash. And then eventually money is it's pumped back into OpenAI. Why? Because it's their biggest client. Okay, it's and the excuse of being AI is the next best thing reaches a point where if AI fails, NVIDIA is going to crash. NVIDIA's entire model at this point just crashes and burns because their business model at this point is no longer to make graphic cards anymore. The graphic cards to play games is the thing in the past. That's the secondary business. Their thing right now is stuff to run AI models on. Okay, so if the AI business crashes, NVIDIA stock is going to crash and burn. And this went on for a little while until everyone forgot about Oracle, because most of the services relied on the Oracle main service was data storage. The cloud just wrecked that quite effectively, I may add. And so now they're being brought in back because they have they have an investment partnership with a few other companies. SoftBank and a few others. They're going to create the world's most advanced AI infrastructure. They're going to plug an insane amount of graphic cards together and build another data center. That's what they're doing. And one starts wondering where they're going to get all the water and all those very critical resources that they need to cool things down. And most of them actually collide with the stuff that we actually need to live. So yeah, things are getting a bit weird, I may add. But with a $100 billion investment in Oracle, which Oracle is going to need to put money on, you guessed it, graphic cards, on NVIDIA again, which in turn is going to invest where? On OpenAI. We have a full-blown money circulation shenanigan here going on, which makes their stocks just blow up. Okay. And you might not have, you don't need a product. At this point, you don't need a product. You don't need anything really. You just need to say that you're building something out of AI and money will pour out of the walls into it. And the expectation is to grow 700 billion weekly on active users. And I'm left wondering, where do they get these numbers? Because people are using it, that I can give you. But are based on their turnover from their reports, yearly reports, it doesn't look like everyone is paying for that, is it? Right? So how are they making money? The company, from the reports, it looks like things are bleeding out. And my assumption is that this reached a point where if the music stops, we're going to have a crash. And we're going to have a crash pretty big, because most of the investments in these days were made on AI, because AI is meant to solve everything and nothing at the same time, because it was going to be really good at coding, but not, because the code is crap and is vulnerable to hell, and a lot of bugs that that was basically extinct are now back pretty much back in full force. RCEs, local file inclusions, upload bypasses, all clever things and fun things that we exploited over and over again, and with good coding practices over an extended period of time with a lot of patience. A lot of those bugs dwindled, mostly because most of the stuff relies on frameworks. But regardless of that, it became like that. So we are at a very crucial point in history, technology-wise, where we have on one side an infrastructure that promised to be distributed, but it's not. It holds a lot of critical information and a lot of critical businesses inside, which makes itself a target. It also means that the sheer size of things make it itself a target, and it's going to rely on third-party contractors. And one might be left wondering, how scrutinized are those hires? Because it will reach a point where chaos will eventually start to reign. And considering what happened with AWS, we can start to speculate about the fact that might already have settled in. It's not just about focusing on practices. Is the fact that it's became too big. And actually too big, in my opinion, is probably the best way of describing it. It's too big for its operation, and the goals for it put profits on top of it. on top of everything else, it created this silo effect, which is not good. It's not good because it opens up a lot of threats. Not just threats for outage, the threats to the system as well. Because if you rely on contractors, the chances are you're going to have a different level of threats, right? I've talked about this previously, the fact that cache is one of the main factors that usually contributes to the internal threat. Okay, having a contractor means there are people profiting from the work of that individual without actually being active or useful, technically useful, right? And just sitting on a chair, profiting from other people's work. That's a manager. That's the definition of a manager. In that case, that individual might be permeable to a bribe, and access to an infrastructure that holds as much information as the AWS or the Azure or GCP, which seems to be a bit unknown thus far. It starts to be a question, especially after an event like this. On the other end, we have AI, which is something that is meant to be the capabilities need to be right there, distributed, highly capable, powered. All the checks of good, well and put together infrastructure should be there, but it's not. It's an emerging technology, consumes way too much power. It needs a staggering amount of resources, both physical, hardware based, and electricity and everything else. It puts the environment around it under stress, which doesn't look like something that is anywhere close to finish. So what should you do? Well, if we look into the AWS, my recommendation would be just scrutinize your contracts, put those ACLAs on, do validate if there is a backup and fail-safe operations in place, if there is backup operation infrastructure waiting just in case things are there, and if they're actually truly a backup, they're not running on AWS as well. Okay, the backup operation means it should be running elsewhere in case AWS just disappears. Okay, it's not something that everyone expects, but apparently it can happen. It might not disappear, but it might not work for a few hours. And then on the AI bubble, just be careful. There are a lot of these investments going on. Everyone is currently going over with the fear of missing out, and it's driving stocks way beyond what I think is beyond reasonable. I'm not into economics, but I'm into technology, and I can spot something that it doesn't smell right. And AI is not smelling right. AI is to Windows 8. It was out. Nobody used it. Except in this case, everyone's using it. But from version to version, only the smell is changing. So stay frosty, stay distributed, and I'll see you in the next one.